A well-known warning is to never trust the promises of anyone who is drunk or in love or running for office. Fair enough. But what about everybody else? Can their word be trusted? Well, yeah, if they do what Jesus said. Hey guys, welcome to our special series right here at 30 on Thursdays, in which we focus on Jesus' world-famous teaching known as the Sermon on the Mount. Pastor David here with you, and in this week's episode, Jesus is going to tackle the complicated, the highly philosophical subject of keeping our word. That's right. Immediately following his teaching on divorce, which happens when people break their promises, Jesus addresses the need for us to be people of our word. Here's what he says. Again, you have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not swear falsely, but shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn. But I say to you, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil. So just as Jesus has done across the last few sections, he begins this topic in a sermon by referring to the past. This time he says, again, you have heard that it was said by those of old, as though he's aware of his own repetition. And then he goes on to make a statement that melds two Old Testament passages into one. When he says, you shall not swear falsely, he's referencing Leviticus 19:12, which reads, you shall not swear by my name falsely, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. And when he says, you shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn, he's referencing Numbers 30, verse 2, which reads, if a man vows a vow to the Lord, or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. But Jesus doesn't stop after referencing lines from the Old Testament. As usual, he follows up with his patented, but I say to you, and then goes on to drop some knowledge on his original audience and us as well. Jesus says, don't swear an oath at all. Don't swear by heaven, don't swear by earth, don't swear by Jerusalem, don't even swear by your own head. Don't swear here, don't swear there, don't swear anywhere. Now, it might sound like Jesus was skipping like a CD from the 1990s, but once again, he's simply just having to directly confront the terrible teaching and practices of the rabbis of his day. See, those religious leaders, they knew it was wrong to swear an oath on God's name when they had absolutely no intention of actually keeping their oath. And so they just simply taught the people, look, when you're not going to keep your word, don't swear an oath by God's name because, well, that could end pretty badly for you. Instead, when you want to break your promise, just swear your oath by something else, anything else. You'll be totally fine. See, the religious leaders, they had loopholes down to a science. At least they thought. But Jesus comes along and destroys their house of cards by saying, guys, look, just skip the whole oath-making thing entirely. After all, it's not like every single one of your verbal exchanges requires an oath. You don't have to say, I swear by the hammer of Thor that You can just say, yeah, I'll pick you up at the airport. Or, no, I won't eat your tacos. It's as simple as that. According to Jesus, an oath wasn't necessary if you intended on keeping your word. And if you didn't intend on keeping your word, well, guess what? Swearing an oath wasn't going to make it any better. Now, for the record, okay, Jesus is not saying that oaths are bad. There's nothing intrinsically evil or sinister about them. A doctor isn't sinning when she takes the Hippocratic Oath any more than a soldier is sinning when he swears the oath of enlistment. Likewise, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the oath of office that our elected officials take when they're inaugurated. Now, there might be something wrong with those clowns, civil servants, but there's nothing wrong with their oath. Bottom line, oaths are not sinful, just unnecessary for people who plan on keeping their word. That's the simple point Jesus is making in this part of his Sermon on the Mount. Just keep your word. If you say you're going to do something, then do it. And if you give your word not to do something, then don't do it. Anything beyond that, Jesus warns us, could involve evil. Now, at the risk of making this lesson even more elementary than it already is, here are a few quick takeaways from this section of Jesus' teaching. First, remember your commitment to your word is an indicator of your integrity. In fact, it's a really big indicator of your integrity. If your word can be trusted, then you can be trusted. But if your word can't be trusted, well, then neither can you. Like it or not, one of the most straightforward ways we measure others is by their word, because our commitment to our word is an indicator of our integrity, and our integrity just so happens to be an indicator of our faith. So, number 2, do what you say. If you give your word to do something, then do it without fail or without excuse. If you promise not to do something, then don't let anyone or anything back you down from that promise. There are so many reasons to do what you say, but the greatest reason is because Jesus always did what he said, and we're supposed to be like him. All right, that's a wrap on this part of Jesus' teaching, at least from our end. But as usual, we've put together a short Bible study for you guys that will allow you to further explore this topic. Now, you can find it in the description box directly beneath this video, and we hope that you'll use it to examine your speech and your commitment, ultimately growing more and more into the likeness of Jesus. And then we'll meet you right back here for the very next part of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount.